we are launching a new messaging service between all iOS 5 customers, and we call it iMessage.
In 2011, Apple launched iMessage, which wasn't only a texting platform, but a divide between iPhone and Android users as a marker of social status.
Blue bubbles versus green bubbles. iPhone versus Android.
You have an Android?
Yes.
An Android? Never mind. I can't do this. I'm so sorry.
Wait, what?
The iMessage was revolutionary, but for your text to be sent in these blue bubbles, not only you but the person who you're sending the text to must have an iPhone too. If the receiver has any other phone, this so cherished bright blue bubble turned into a cringe green.
Basically, the green bubble experience on an iPhone is trash.
Blue Bubble supported your multimedia way better, didn't compress your photos or videos into blurry, unrecognizable pixels, and it knows that life doesn't always fit into 160 characters SMS and gives you features like read receipts, typing indicators, and even lets you throw an emoji. And with Animoji and Memoji to additions, your texting experience was way better than a lifeless SMS with a sad pixelated emoji.
That's how simple it is to create your very own Memoji.
The Blue Bubble just felt natural and more personal, and this is only one of the many tactics that Apple uses to influence its customers and create a cult-like following. The reality is that it's Apple's world and we're just living in it. People have gone to extreme lengths just to possess a device with that Apple logo. I mean, recently, a couple from India was arrested for selling their 8-month-old baby to buy an iPhone 14 just to create Instagram Reels.
They sold their 8-month-old child, and it all happened because they wanted to create reels, they wanted to get famous.
Apple has crafted this almost cult-like devotion not by pushing gadgets but by selling a narrative. They don't just market a phone, they market a lifestyle. Apple makes buying their products feel like less of a logical choice and more of an upgrade to who you want to be. You just don't buy Apple products because it's functional, but you buy it because it makes you successful, sophisticated, and elite. But to understand why Apple's branding is so clever that makes anyone want to buy their product, we gotta understand the man behind Apple, Steve Jobs.
I'm Steve Jobs from Apple Computer. We're very glad to be here tonight.
We're no longer on the verge of the personal computer revolution. We're right in the midst of it, thank you.
I'm not a big fan of Steve Jobs, personally.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. I just don't understand what the big deal was with that guy.
Well, I did try to talk to him once at a party, and he was super rude to me.
He never wrote a line of code.
Everything, someone else designed the box. So how come 10 times in a day, I read Steve Jobs as a genius? What do you do?
I play the orchestra.
Delivering today the iPad, the new iMessage, the iPod, iPhoto, MacBook Air, iTunes, iPhone.
It's got everything you need, all wrapped up in one.
I just want to let you know that I finally, officially have an iPhone.
Stay hungry, stay foolish.
All right, Apple today became the first publicly traded company in the world to be worth more than $3 trillion.
Not too bad for a company that started in a garage.
Even though Steve Jobs was one of the most polarizing figures, we can all agree that he was master of persuasion. He turned billions of us into loyal buyers of MP3 players.
It's called iPod.
Laptops.
It's called the MacBook Air.
And even phones.
And we are calling it iPhone.
Often at prices that made us question our own sanity.
4GB model, we're going to price it at that same $499. No premium whatsoever.
Sure, the tech of these products was impressive, but much of the success was due to Steve's unparalleled marketing genius. From the first keynote back in 1998 when he was rehired as an interim CEO to even his last one, every single Apple launch and presentation felt amazing, touching, and persuasive. Jobs knew exactly what convinced people. He didn't just rely on logical arguments or impressive specs. Instead, he consistently highlighted the effort and hard work behind Apple's creation.
I'm still stunned that our engineering team could pull this off.
Drawing people in emotionally and making them value the product even more. This approach is often called labor illusion. In the book Influence, Robert Cialdini talks about how you can build a loyal following. And to build a loyal following, you must appeal both rationally and emotionally. For example, take the iconic 2007 Apple launch. Instead of just selling a phone, he created an unforgettable experience. Jobs began by spotlighting the hard work of the Apple team, showing the hard work of Apple team over the years, appealing to the emotional side.
This is a day I've been looking forward to for 2.5 years. In 1984, we introduced the Macintosh. In 2001, we introduced the first iPod.
Then, he proceeded to introduce 3 new devices: a phone, an iPod, and an internet communicator.
A widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications.
After that, he proceeded to exceed all the expectations by combining the 3 devices into one revolutionary product.
These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device.
This wasn't just a product launch, it was a demonstration of emotional persuasion. He made the audience emotionally invested in the product and the Apple brand. It's similar to how Mr. Beast captivates his audience by delivering on expectations and then exceeding them.
Beginning, match the expectations, and then you want to exceed them. So you want to assure people that what they clicked on is what they're getting, and then blow their mind and be like, but you're also getting even more.
Jobs also did the same with the iPod. There were MP3 players before the iPod, but Apple just marketed it as 1,000 songs in your pocket, tapping into an emotional promise rather than a tech specs.
Keep 1,000 songs on iPod, and it fits in your pocket.
While other companies focus on the features, Apple spoke to emotions. This emotional connection is the foundation Steve Jobs built, and Apple continues to use it today. Apple doesn't just sell a product, it sells an identity. People become invested in Apple's cult because they aren't just buying a phone, they are buying into a vision. As Jobs created emotional loyalty and laid the groundwork, Apple continues to do the same with their presentations even today. However, presentations aren't the only tool that Apple uses. What truly keeps their customers locked into buying Apple products is their closed ecosystem. Previously, I talked about the blue and the green bubble, but this hierarchy isn't just confined to texting. It extends to the entire Apple ecosystem. It's Apple's interconnected devices, software, and services designed to work together. Starter talks on one device continue on another and sync everything in between. Apple offers a range of devices from iPhone, iPads, Mac, Apple Watch, Apple TV, HomePod to accessories like AirPods and Apple Pencil, and pairs them with softwares like AirPlay, AirDrop, Continuity, and iCloud. That makes everything work together seamlessly. Once you're into one Apple product, you're likely to want more because they simply work so well together. Sure, other companies have product families too, but what makes Apple's ecosystem uniquely successful is the exclusivity. While Google services like YouTube, Google Search, and Google Maps are accessible across all platforms, Apple keeps its service strictly Apple only. Safari, iMovie, Apple Maps, and hundreds of other applications that are only available on iOS. It's more subtle, subconscious desire for exclusivity and the feeling of owning something that's only available to a selected few. The marketing is so genius that those inside this circle feel like they have the best service ever, while those outside the ecosystem can't help but feel like they are missing out on the seamless experience.
Clipboard is a feature that allows you to copy and paste anything from any device to any device. You can copy phone numbers from your Mac to your iPhone.
It's not just about how seamless everything works together, but high walls Apple has built around it. One bite of Apple and you are quite never the same again. Like most of the people, you start with an iPhone. The next thing you know is you're hooked. You get a Mac, iMessage on your phone syncs with your Mac and also with your Apple Watch, so those blue bubbles follow you everywhere. Any changes are updated across all your devices in real time.
If you've got an Apple Watch and you've unlocked it on your wrist and you're close to your Mac or holding your iPhone, you can effectively unlock both of those devices without having to enter a password or use Touch ID or Face ID.
All the files in one device syncs to all Apple devices you own via iCloud. And if something is missing, then you can just AirDrop for quick share. For example, you can send a 4K video from your iPhone to Mac in seconds without needing any internet connection. AirDrop is basically Wi-Fi and Bluetooth combination to share files across all devices.
This video file from the Files app on my iPad and then paste it to the Mac desktop super quick.
You can use your iPhone as a document scanner and the scan automatically appears on your Mac. Or take a photo with your iPhone, it immediately available on your Mac. Misplace your iPhone, just use an Apple Watch, Mac, or iPad to locate it.
So I could use my Apple Watch to find my iPhone or my Mac to find my iPad.
There's no need to connect every single devices to the internet. Once you connect your one device to the internet, all of your Apple devices will be connected to the internet automatically. Everything works so perfectly together that escaping the Apple ecosystem feels like trying to leave a black hole. I mean, the iMessage gap in iPhones and Android is so big that several companies have sprung just to bridge it. Sunbird, for example, They used Mac Mini servers to let Android users send iMessages but raised privacy concerns because Apple's end-to-end encryption isn't exactly easy to work around. Then there was Beeper 2, which tried to fool Apple into thinking that an Android was an iPhone, but Apple quickly shut it down.
It also makes me slightly suspicious that what's really happening is you're logging into your Apple ID on someone else's Mac in some server farm somewhere. So as long as you're comfortable with that, then this is a pretty cool solution that works.
But the seamless Apple ecosystem does come with a cost. And it's not just a price tag. While Apple proudly present themselves as a company who respect your privacy, they don't want you to know the bigger picture. You've probably seen their ads boasting about how much they care about your privacy. Apple often villainizes companies like Google and Facebook, portraying them as reckless when it comes to user privacy and data security. By comparison, Apple positioned itself as the good guy, emphasizing that they didn't sell user data and prioritizing privacy as a core value. Apple's privacy stance is a part of a broader strategy to keep users locked into its ecosystem, fostering loyalty while simultaneously building a brand that feels safe and superior. But for all of their claims protecting you, Apple hasn't exactly been completely honest.
Bloomberg News recently reported that for years, iPhone app developers have been allowed to store and sell data from users who allow access to their contact lists, which in addition to phone numbers may include other people's photos and home addresses.
While they've portrayed themselves as your protector, they've hidden the fact that they're also like the noisy neighbor who is bet too interested in your personal life. In fact, they were always listening. In 2019, an employee revealed that Apple had been making him and thousands of other workers secretly review hundreds and millions of audio clips each year. He said that during the duration of him working at Apple, he eavesdropped people's personal information from drug deals to crimes and relationships. A couple of years back in the App Store, among many other things that they were tracking, they were called out for tracking what apps you search for and link data directly to you. It wasn't just App Store, but Apple Music, Apple TV, Books, the iTunes Store, and even Stocks app. Quietly back all sorts of personal information.
Now, Apple TV, Books, iTunes Store, and Stocks transmitted analytics with analytics setting turned off. For example, the Stocks app sent Apple your list of watch stocks, the names of stocks that you viewed or searched for, and timestamps for when you did it, as well as a record of any news articles you see in the app.
So when Apple say privacy, they might be focused on their own.
They were allegedly caught harvesting data from their users in order to grow their advertising business.
At the end of the day, it's just a device. Yet somehow, that sleek rectangle in your pocket has become a badge of belonging. Which leads me to branding. Let's face it, Apple's branding presence is practically untouchable. Even people who cannot afford this insanely overpriced device run after it, flying off to another country just to buy the latest iPhone so they can have it slightly earlier than the rest. It's no different than other people who drive luxury cars but sleep on mattresses with no bed frames or can't afford insurance. Though separated by vast oceans, vanity unites us all. Apple users often view themselves not as a mere customers but as a member of exclusive club, bonded by a blind loyalty so strong that they will defend Apple to death, even when competitors offer better services at half the price. In 2015, a 24-year-old in Australia had lost his iPhone 6 at a party. Rather than just accepting the loss, he claimed that he had been mugged and gave the police a detailed account of his attack. It gets weirder though. After the police confronted him, the man confessed that no one had actually mugged him. He couldn't just bear the idea of not having an iPhone and wanted a quick replacement. For him, life without his Apple device was so inconceivable that he fabricated an entire crime. I've already mentioned that people go to bizarre lengths in order to protect or recover their Apple products, reflecting the emotional attachment and almost irrational loyalty that some have towards that device. But that's not surprising because Apple isn't selling a device but an identity. Apple is very meticulous about its image, even dictating the smallest detail of how its products are shown in movies and series. They have a strict policy of bad guys cannot have an iPhone and doesn't allow any scenes where Apple products are in the hands of bad people. Even scenes involving drunk driving with an iPhone is not permitted. There is a detailed legal document outlining how an iPhone should be shown, including which cases are acceptable, which Apple sends to the production house. They are very direct with wanting to have clean image in the tech industry. Also by nature wants everyone to identify the villains as Android guys. In Knives Out, Chris Evans' character Ransom is the only one using an Android while all other characters use iPhones and wear Apple Watch. This is a prime example of Apple's preference for heroes and good guys to carry their device.
Bad guys cannot have iPhones on camera. So, oh no!
The portrayal of Apple products in media heavily aligns with Steve Jobs' vision of creating aspirational brand. For instance, in 2006 movie The Devil Wears Prada, Annie Hathaway's character is given a white iPhone by her boss, symbolizing her transformation into fashion elite. Here, it wasn't just a phone, but a status symbol. This level of control demonstrates just how far Apple will go to preserve its meticulous crafted image. Also, when it comes to shopping experiences, Apple goes the extra mile with its store. Ever felt like you're stepping into a high-tech Zen garden? Yes, it's very intentional. In the stores, you are free to interact with everything: touch, test, swipe, play games on devices, or take a selfie. By letting you play with the product, Apple makes you feel like you've already got a stake in them before you even make the purchase. This way, you are more likely to convince yourself you need it and less likely to walk out empty-handed. And let's talk about the store layout. It's less retail and more exclusive experience center. It's designed to make shopping feel like an adventure. Even the staffs are part of subtle genius strategy. They aren't your typical retail associates, but salespeople who are trained as concierges. Instead of pitches, they make you feel valued. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple, the company was in shambles. His vision was bold, but to reveal the crumbling giant, he needed more than ideas. He needed someone to clean up the operation mess that Apple was in. In 1998, Steve brought Tim Cook on the board, and despite the thriving career at Compaq, Cook joined Apple and transformed its deeply struggling supply chain and business strategy. And Tim Cook cooked. Behind the scenes, he streamlined all the production and made the iMac launch in 1998 a grand success alongside Steve. As Jobs' health fatter, Cook quietly took over, keeping the company afloat for more than a decade, before stepping in as a CEO in August 2011, just 2 months before Jobs passed away. People doubt if he would be able to lead Apple with the same charisma and visionary flair that Jobs had. But Cook shattered everyone's expectations. Under his leadership, Apple launched the iPhone 6, Apple Pay, and the Apple Watch, growing into the world's first trillion-dollar company. Cook didn't just innovate further, but he expanded Apple's global reach, making it a brand with unparalleled appeal across the world. And still to this day, Tim Cook is busy cooking up the next big thing at Apple. And I'm excited for what will be next.
Really?